We're going to go to the Prime Minister. The Foreign Minister, Penny Wong's there with him as well. So is the Trade Minister as well. So let's listen in.
In the world does not come as a surprise. For Australia, these tariffs are not unexpected, but let me be clear, they are totally unwarranted. President Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be 0, not 10%. The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend. Today's decision will add to uncertainty in the global economy, and it will push up costs for American households. It is the American people who will pay the biggest price for these unjustified tariffs. This is why our government will not be seeking to impose reciprocal tariffs. We will not join a race to the bottom that leads to higher prices and slower growth. We will stand up for Australia. We will continue to make the strongest case for these unjustified tariffs to be removed from our exporters. Our existing free trade agreement with the United States contains dispute resolution mechanisms. We want to resolve this issue without resorting to using these, as we do support continued constructive engagement with our friends in the United States. Our shared history, our friendship, our alliance, these are all bigger than a poor decision. But the Australian people have every right to view this action by the Trump administration as undermining our free and fair trading relationship and counter to the shared values that have always been at the heart of our two nations' long-standing friendship. This will have consequences for how Australians see this relationship. These are uncertain times, but Australians can be absolutely certain of this. Our government will always stand up for Australian jobs, Australian industry, Australian consumers and Australian values. That is why we've been crystal clear with the United States about what is not up for negotiation. Australia is a great trading nation. 1 in 4 of our jobs depends upon trade, but we will never trade away the things which make us the best country in the world. The Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme is an Australian institution, a proud Labor creation that my government has built on. The investments we're making in the PBS mean that life-saving and life-changing medicines, which would otherwise cost people thousands of dollars, will be no more than $25 a script. Under Labor, that will never be up for negotiation. We don't want our health system to be more American, we only want it to be more Australian. The same is true for agriculture. We have made it very clear to the United States that we will not compromise on biosecurity. We will not weaken the measures that protect our farmers and producers from the risks of disease or contamination. Indeed, we've made it a priority to strengthen biosecurity, because one of the things that makes Australian food and fibre the best in the world is that people everywhere know that it stands for quality, it also stands for safety. Another key point was technology. Our government stands by our media bargaining code. We strongly support local content in streaming services so Australian stories stay on Australian screens. And we have no intention of repealing the world-leading legislation that we passed with overwhelming support that set the minimum age for social media at 16. That policy is about what's best for Australian children and Australian parents. These are our priorities. We stand up for Australia's interests. While we have an important trading relationship with the United States, it's important to put this in some perspective. It only accounts for less than 5% of our exports. Many other countries will be hit much harder by today's decision than Australia. And because it is across the board, with no exemptions of course, there's an argument actually about comparative impact of this decision made by President Trump. That puts us in a position where I think no nation is better prepared than Australia for what has occurred today. For 3 years, my government has been working to make Australia's economy more resilient and our exports more diverse. We've deepened our economic engagement in Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia and India, the fastest growing region of the world in human history. We are implementing our Southeast Asia economic strategy, developed by Nicholas Moore, and I thank him and give a shout out to him yet again for the extraordinary work that he did on behalf of the nation that he loves. Our roadmap for economic engagement with India is what we launched here in Melbourne at Monash University just a month ago. This is about delivering for Australian businesses in what will be the third largest economy in the world. We've signed a new trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates, a tribute to the guy on my left here for the nature of that. What that has done is open up the markets of the Middle East through the UAE. We're boosting exports of Australian beef and red meat, expanding trade with the UK, European Union and Indonesia. And of course, we've cleared away over $20 billion in trade impediments with China. Backing local manufacturing with our Future Made in Australia plan. Investing in the skills, technology and energy to make more things here and stand on our own 2 feet. We're building on these actions today. First, we will strengthen our anti-dumping regime to safeguard key sectors like steel, aluminium and manufacturing against unfair competition. Second, we will provide $50 million to affected sectors, particularly through peak bodies such as the National Farmers Federation, to secure and grow new markets for their world-class products. This work will be backed by 5 new business and investment missions to priority markets within the first 100 days of our second term. Third, we will establish a new economic resilience program through our National Reconstruction Fund. This will provide $1 billion in zero-interest loans for firms to capitalise on new export opportunities. Fourth, just as we are already encouraging more people to buy Australian, our Labor government will buy Australian too. This comes on the back of the announcements that I made in Port Kembla, for example, about procurement of Australian steel. But what this means is that Australian businesses will be front of the queue for government procurement and contracts, maximising value for local businesses and the taxpayer. And fifthly, a Labor government will establish a critical minerals strategic reserve. I'll have more to say on this over coming weeks. The world has thrown a lot at Australia over the past few years. We had COVID, the long tail of COVID, and then we had the impact of global inflation. We cannot control what challenges we face, but we can determine how we respond. Australia will always respond by defending our national interest. And our government will always deal with global challenges the Australian way, standing up for our national interest, backing our people and building for the future. We'll hear from the Foreign Minister, then the Trade Minister, then happy to take a few questions.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. It's good to be here to respond to this announcement with both you and my colleague, Senator Farrell. Well, today's decision underlines that we do live in an uncertain world, and we understand that many Australians find that challenging. But what I would emphasise is that our country faces that increasingly uncertain world with independence, with resilience and with more choices. And this is what we have been focused on over these last 3 years, doing the hard work of building common ground in more diversified partnerships. Not just relying on what we've done in the past to keep working in a different world. So we are deepening our cooperation with traditional partners and allies. But we have also, as the Prime Minister has outlined, strengthened Australia's relationships across our region, where our prosperity and our security are most on the line. With India, that has overtaken the United States as our fourth largest trading partner, with Japan and Korea, with Southeast Asia, which will soon be the world's fourth largest economy, where we are implementing the Southeast Asian Economic Strategy to 2040 that the Prime Minister described, and with the Pacific, where we have delivered transformational partnerships after the previous lost decade under Peter Dutton and the Coalition. I would also say we see from the decision today that some of the countries of our region are the hardest hit by these tariffs, and we do not underestimate the disruption these decisions will have on the economies of our region and the global system. But we face those challenges calmly and maturely. We certainly won't be picking fights in our neighbourhood. Our approach is to be credible and mature, to deal calmly with these challenges and to seize the opportunities that lie ahead. And we succeed best in this pursuit when we stand together as Australians, when we stand up for Australians together. So I would say this is a day for anyone who is a political leader or who aspires to be a political leader to be part of that unity and stand with us for Australia. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. John.
Thanks, Prime Minister, and thanks, Penny. The Albanese government will do two things from this point onwards. Number one, we'll continue to engage with the United States to seek to remove these unfair 10% tariffs on Australian goods. We believe that it's by negotiation, by discussion, by sitting down and explaining to people the issues at hand that we can best present the case for Australia for these tariffs removed. Secondly, we're going to continue on our program of expanding Australia's trade relationship. In this 3-year term, we've introduced a new free trade agreement with the United Kingdom. That's already doubled our trade with the United Kingdom. In the case of beef, a 500% increase. We've established a new free trade agreement with India that's already delivering significant benefits to both our agriculture and our manufacturing sector, and we're on the cusp of another agreement to expand our relationship with India. As the Prime Minister mentioned, we've got a new agreement with the United Arab Emirates. Think of the United Arab Emirates as the Woolies warehouse of the Middle East. If you can get your product, and we're getting every product in there, tariff-free, then you can get it to all of the countries in that region. On Monday afternoon, I'm talking with my European counterpart. We all know what happened the last time we had discussions with the Europeans. I think things have changed, and the opportunity to have further negotiations about a free trade agreement on better terms than have been previously offered now exists, and we should take that opportunity. In the last month, I've spoken to all of our major trading partners, and we're going to continue expanding our trade opportunities with them. I've also had the opportunity to speak to all of the affected industries by these decisions. The Prime Minister's outlined the way in which we are going to continue to support those industries, but in particular, push them out the door into new markets. That's what we've got to do. It's a changed world, but we have to push Australian companies out into the world. Why is that? Well, because we know that if you're an export-focused company, your profits are higher, but more importantly, the wages of your staff are higher. So we have now a renewed opportunity. People want to talk to us. We want to talk to them. It's all about expanding our opportunities to get our wonderful food, wine and manufacturing product into the rest of the world. Thank you.